Hey guys, JohnMadLabs here. In today's video, I'll show you how to make this mini mechanical keyboard that you can put whatever keys on, either numbers, shortcuts, letters, and everything in between. So let's get started. Let's quickly go over what you actually need to make this mini mechanical keyboard. So the first thing you want to get are some Cherry MX compatible keys. Brands include Cherry, Gatoron, Kale, more. I'll leave some links in the description so you can choose based on preference or budget. Yeah, as I was saying, you can see how much they cost, see what you prefer, look online, just, choose the ones you want. And these ones are the Cherry RGB ones, which means that they let light through really well. So just keep in mind whether the case is clear or it's opaque, and how you plan on using lights in your build. The next thing you want are some keycaps. These are 3D printed. These are normal. I'm going to be using these, and I added an O-ring, and you don't have to do this at all. This is just preference. And yeah, basically just get any keycaps that have this cross hole on the bottom, or if it says Cherry MX compatible. Those keycaps should work for your purpose, and if they don't, you can always return them. So the next thing that you want to get is a case. This one's 3D printed. You can probably laser cut, plasma cut, CNC this, just whatever. Or you can ask your friends to 3D print this, or your aunts, uncles, whatever. Some cities have a makerspace or 3D printers in their library that can do that for you. Just make sure you just try not to order these online, because those are really expensive. Like, this would have cost me 40 bucks just for these two pieces. So yeah, then you need to get a controller for your whole thing. This one's an Arduino Pro Micro. This one's USB compatible. Make sure that yours can work with the computer to, make a USB keyboard or whatever. And I actually tried to use my Arduino Nano, but turns out it's not USB compatible, so that's not possible. And the last thing you need, which is kind of optional, is an LED strip. This one is the one that you can find for cheap at Walmart. I cut off the heat shrink right here, and I might desolder it so I can just stick this in the middle and just connect some wires to it so it runs around. Now, as you can see here, I am soldering, and what I am doing is I am taking a bare copper wire and I am soldering it to one of the 2 pins on all the switches to connect them all and make one common ground. Now, the next thing I do is I solder a flexible wire to the other pin on each of the switches individually so I can connect it to each of the pins on the Arduino. I'll leave a schematic in the description, but one thing I have to note is that make sure you use flexible wires, or else you're not going to be able to cram it inside the case. Okay, if you are planning to build this yourself, I'm going to quickly go over the schematic and what I did. So basically, the switch has 2 pins, which are the yellow dots here. And one of each of the pins are connected together to form a common ground. I just took a solid copper wire and just soldered it to each of the pins, and then connected all the rows, and then soldered a flexible wire, and then soldered that to the Arduino Pro Micro. Using flexible wires just helps everything cram into the case better, so make sure you do that. And then the other pin on each of the switches is connected to a specific pin on the Pro Micro. For example, this one's 2, 3, 4, 5, but you don't have to connect them exactly this way. You can connect them to whatever pin you want. Just remember that this switch, for example, if you connect it to pin 9, just remember that this one is 9. Okay, so I finished soldering all of the different switches and the Arduino Pro Micro, and I went to the garage and hot glued the pins of the Pro Micros just to make sure those are well insulated, and so those are a little bit tougher so they don't come undone. And then I hot glued the Pro Micro to the bottom of the case, and I hot glued all around the case to make sure it wouldn't come undone easily, but I could just jam a screwdriver in there and pry it up if I ever needed access inside. Okay, and now it is time to explain the code. So we're just gonna, and this is some code I found on the internet, and it didn't have enough keys. It only had like 8, I think, and I just added more keys, as you can see here. Basically, just ignore all of this. Just remember that these are the pins that the keys go to. Like key 1, okay. For me, I did key 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And basically, those just correspond to whatever number, so just keep those in mind. And right here, if you see something like key left shift, above that it says key 1. So key 1 will be left shift. And then there will be a small delay of 1 millisecond to make sure it doesn't like spam it everywhere. No, I think it's 10 milliseconds, yes. It's a 10 millisecond delay to make sure it doesn't just spam shift. And then right here, just ignore that. It just releases the key if it's been released. And then there are more. Just key 2, as you can see here. And you can also do different key binds by doing keyboard print or keyboard press. And you could always look up the Arduino keyboard library if you want to know more, but this is basically how you use the code. Okay, and I've already uploaded it, so there's no need to do that. So now all I have to do is test it out, which is what I already did. So the last thing we need to do is put in all the keycaps. And I decided to remove the O-rings last minute because those kind of made it feel mushy. So I decided to scratch that. We're just gonna go all nice and clicky. It sounded and felt mushy and I didn't like that. So 0. Ignore the outside noise. I just like to keep my window open all the time for fresh air. Okay. Then we got the next one. And if you want your keycaps to be easily removable without accidentally pulling out the switches, you might want to kind of super glue those in place. Or what I do to remove them is I just jam a screwdriver. I'll show you guys. I basically just jam it in here and I hold down the switch while I jam another one and try to pry it up. So just a quick tip if you guys ever plan on removing your keycaps to swap them out or clean the inside of the keyboard. Then you can either super glue the switches down or you can just use 2 screwdrivers to pry it. Okay. And here is the typing test. By the way, I lubed these. So basically, I didn't have any Krytox lube because I looked on the market. $19 for half an ounce? And yeah, so what I did is I realized that I have an obsession with yo-yos. Yo, 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 yo. Another yo-yo somewhere here. And I realized I had some yo-yo lube, which is safe for metal and plastic, and it's used on a constantly spinning thing, and it only needs to be reapplied once a month. So I thought that was good enough, and it made a big difference, as you can hear. Okay, so let's go over some upgrades you can make to your mini mechanical keyboard to make it better than mine. Now, first of all, you can add rubber feet, which is what I did. You can just put some hot glue in these holes right here and put it down on a flat surface like a tile, a piece of glass, or a piece of metal. Wait till that dries, peel it off, and there you go. You have a non-slip surface. The next thing you can do is, instead of putting hot glue between here, you can add screws into the screw holes. Just make sure you use 100% infill. And if you're wondering why I didn't use screws, it's because my friend 3D printed this for me, so it's not 100% infill, because I'm afraid that the holes right here will crack because it has infill inside. And also, it was 11 o'clock and I wasn't going to wait for the next day, so I just finished it that night. Anyways, the next upgrade you can make is adding LEDs like these. These don't change color, but it's still good enough for some people. So I'll leave some links in the description for other tutorials, and in other tutorials, people take the mechanical switches with the holes. Those include the original Cherry MX switches. I chose the RGB ones because those are the ones with the clear housing, but the normal ones have a black housing and a hole for the LED to stick into. So basically just connect all the negatives to ground and all the positives to VCC through a resistor, and just look in the description of those tutorials on how to wire everything up, and I'll leave another schematic for the LEDs if you want to add LEDs. So with that out of the way, it's time to get to ASMR with this microphone right here.